happening tonight in Vancouver.
I rushed to New York and coming back to visit some family.
I had a bit of anxiety, but it ended up being fine. It really wasn't a big deal at all.
17 months after closing the U.S. border, fully vaccinated Americans can now cross into Canada, a huge relief for the tourism industry.
I'm super excited to be here just for 2 days.
It's kind of like my second home. I spent a lot of time in Canada.
After months of prohibitions on non-essential travel, fully vaccinated Americans are finally able to enter Canada again. Just ahead, Americans share their feelings on finally being able to cross the borderline.
Yeah, I get something shiny
He walked all the way to an Olympic medal. Richmond's Evan Dunfee has arrived back in BC, and we catch up with him at Vancouver International Airport.
This is City News Everywhere.
Well, good evening. The latest numbers on COVID-19 in BC cover a 3-day reporting period, and it seems the daily case count is slowly on the decline. There were a total of 1,079 new cases since Friday, and 5 more people have died. Well, breaking those cases down, there were 422 between Friday and Saturday, 364 from Saturday to Sunday, and 293 in the last 24 hours. 4 of the 5 people who died of the virus over the weekend were in the Interior Health Region. More than 57% of BC's active cases are in that part of the province. Right now, we have 68 people in hospital, 20 of whom are in the ICU. As for vaccinations, 82% of eligible people have 1 dose, and we've reached 70% now fully vaccinated. In another effort to minimize the spread of infections, BC is reducing the gap between first and second doses of COVID-19 vaccine.
Starting this evening, eligible people throughout the province will receive a notice that they can now book their second dose of COVID-19 vaccine when at least 28 days have passed after their first dose. So we're reducing that interval from 49 days, which it is approximately where it is right now, to people being able to receive their second dose as early as at least 28 days after their first dose.
Dr. Bonnie Henry says this policy change is in response to the rising number of cases across BC, especially in the central Okanagan. If you don't live in an area where there is a spike in cases, it is recommended you wait 6 to 8 weeks between shots, as it will likely give you better protection.
We're from Massachusetts, and we are visiting friends in London, Ontario.
Probably waited a little over an hour. Probably took about 5 or 6, 7 minutes to talk to the guy. I rushed to New York and coming back to visit some family.
After 17 months shut out of Canada, fully vaccinated Americans can now return to the Great White North for non-essential travel.
So whether you're in Montreal, whether you're in Toronto, whether you're in Vancouver or Calgary, you're going to see a lot more Americans.
Americans entering Canada must be fully vaccinated with a vaccine approved by Health Canada for at least 2 weeks. They must also provide a negative molecular test no more than 72 hours old, and all the information must be uploaded to the Arrive Can app. It's a day of celebration for Canada's tourism industry, which has been decimated since the border closed in March of 2020.
We've seen actually a greater than 50% reduction in revenues generated by our industry, and we've also seen over 500,000 people displaced from their jobs.
The reopening comes as the COVID-19 Delta variant is causing a resurgence in cases, especially in the States. Canadians hoping to head south via land borders will still have to wait, with Washington holding off on Canadian travelers until at least August 21st. In the meantime, the Canadian tourism industry is anxiously waiting for American visitors and the dollars that come with them.
Listening to tourism operators, they started getting calls immediately from their American clients as soon as the announcement went out. There seemed to be a bit of a pent-up demand to come across and take advantage of, our good old Canadian hospitality.
I have a place on the lake in Port Colborne.
Oh, awesome.
And I'm also visiting my daughter.
I had a bit of anxiety, but it ended up being fine. It really wasn't a big deal at all.
Potter says it may take until 2025 for the tourism industry to return to 2019 numbers. In Ottawa, Nigel Newlove, City News.
Since the start of the pandemic, I haven't been able to come up to Canada for a visit, So this is a long time coming.
It's the first full day of the Canada-U.S. border being open to fully vaccinated U.S. travelers. Afternoon traffic is a little lighter here at the Peace Arch crossing, but this morning some Americans waited for hours to cross the line as restrictions on non-essential travel are finally being lifted.
I'm super excited to go home just for 2 days, but it's worth the drive and it's worth the wait and worth all the preparation to get here. There's a lot of documents in the purse right now.
While the border lineups did improve by the afternoon, it might as well have been a parking lot at the Peace Arch border crossing this morning, with some Americans waiting multiple hours to get into Canada.
It's kind of like my second home. I spent a lot of time in Canada.
Brendan Gabriel is planning to drive from Washington to finally see his partner Amy on Friday.
You know, of course, me and Amy have been together since January of 2020. So now that the border is actually opening up, it's quite exciting. We don't have to meet up at, the ditch anymore, like in between the border. And being able to come across finally is just a dream come true.
Peter Wagner works at News 1130 and lives in Washington. He's been reporting from home for months.
Well, the last time I tried to come into Canada was March 2020, so today was a really emotional day. I thought I was being really smart by showing up early this morning. I got there probably about 5:30 in the morning, and there was already a 2-hour wait waiting for me. There were so many cars in 2 lines. There were people there with RVs, people there bringing their boats, people who were clearly caravanning there. But aside from the waiting, it was actually pretty easy.
Wagner and other U.S. citizens and permanent residents crossing the line had to submit a number of different documents to be able to enter Canada.
Negative COVID test, another certificate from Washington State saying that, it's certified Washington vaccination. And then, of course, doing the ArriveCan app, letting them know my 2-week quarantine plan. Hopefully more people will get vaccinated in the coming months because, the more people that get vaccinated, the better we're going to be off as both countries, the United States and Canada. We'll be able to protect our citizens more. As for when Canadians will be able to come down to America, the U.S. border will remain closed to travelers until at least August 21st. At the Peace Arch border crossing, Keir Junos, City News.
Climate change is a fact that's already happening.
And humans are to blame. The major climate change report just out on the state of our planet. The dramatic action it says needs to be done ASAP. One man is being linked to 4 shootings across 2 lower mainland communities over the span of about 3 hours. Police say it all happened late Saturday. 3 shootings were reported just a few blocks apart in the Newton area, while a 4th was called in just across from Scott Road in Delta. A few vehicles and a home were damaged by the bullets, but police say nobody was hurt in any of these shootings. A 28-year-old man was arrested just after midnight on Sunday, and police are looking to speak with witnesses as they piece together a motive. This, by the way, is not believed to be connected to the ongoing gang conflict on the Lower Mainland.
From Tokyo to here at Vancouver International Airport, Canada's first Olympic race walking medalist in 29 years arrived back home Monday morning in BC.
It was an emotional reunion for Evan Dunfee, seeing friends and family for the first time after winning a bronze medal in the men's 50-kilometer race walk event at the Tokyo Olympics.
I mean, that last kilometer, I was just thinking about all these people and all my family and my friends walking back home and just channeled their energy and was able to find that next year and dig deep and somehow make it happen.
The 30-year-old from Richmond won Canada's first ever medal in the 50-kilometer event. To say the win was a nail-biter would be a bit of an understatement.
Up until the last 10 minutes, we were okay, we're good. And then it started thinking, oh, Evan, you got to pick it up. And then the last 100 meters, it's now would be a good time to pick it up. And he did, so it was relief.
He's one of the most stubborn people I know. So he's not going to give up. Yeah. And he has probably one of the most passionate people I know for improvement.
It's the last time the 50-kilometer race walk will be at the Summer Games. The International Olympic Committee is removing it because there isn't a women's 50-kilometer race walk. But there will still be a 20-kilometer event for men and women.
As far as race walking in Canada, do you think it could make some pretty significant steps, pun intended, or not?
I hope so. I mean, less than, I'm not out here hoping to build up an army of race walkers, but really just to use my platform, Who better else to promote the merits of just walking as an activity than a race walker, right? So showing them that this is fantastic exercise and you can get really, really fit just through walking.
As far as what the first thing Dunfee plans to do once he's finally home.
Change, put on. I love our Team Canada stuff, but put on something that's not red. I think will be the first thing I do.
At Vancouver International Airport, Ashley Burr, City News.
Starting September 1st, kids under 12 will be able to ride public transit for free in BC. It's called the Get On Board program, and it's part of the province's promise to make transit affordable and accessible to families. An estimated 370,000 BC kids will be eligible for free rides once the program rolls out. A family that currently buys a monthly TransLink pass for their child could save over $680 a year.
It's a bit like an alarm clock. You can keep switching the alarm clock off, but eventually, if you don't get out of bed and go to wherever you're meant to be going to, it will be too late. You won't get there in time. And I think that this is what this report really is saying. Listen, the alarm clock has gone off many times. This is probably the last report that will be written before we go through and beyond 1.5 degrees C, unless we act now.
The message there, wake up already and act now in big ways. It comes in reaction to a landmark climate change study, something the UN Secretary General is calling Code Red for humanity. It's a crisis rolling out in real time, and the extremes will get worse unless emissions are cut dramatically, warns a new report on the state of our planet by the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. It states in the clearest terms, it is unequivocal that human influence has warmed the atmosphere, oceans, and land, and some of the impacts are irreversible.
Climate change is affecting every region on our planet.
UN scientists say the world is dangerously close to runaway global warming, with average global temperatures likely to cross the 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold within 20 years. That's sooner than in previous predictions.
If we stop warming at 1.5 degrees, then we will also stop many of these extremes from getting worse. And while we are committed to some changes, particularly sea level rise, glacier melt, still to come for many decades, we can slow these changes down, and we can stop many of the others from getting worse by urgently and drastically reducing CO2 emissions in the next decade.
The report, based on more than 14,000 studies, is the most comprehensive of its kind, and it comes during a summer of deadly fires, heat waves, and floods. So will the report's dire warnings spur the urgent action needed to turn things around? Stay tuned. World leaders are under extreme pressure to step up at November's UN Climate Summit in Scotland, and the clock is ticking. Melissa Duggan, City News.